And now, WJCU University Heights takes a break from the Heights programming to bring you Jewish Community Radio, a weekly half hour every Friday, where we talk about what's happening in the Jewish community, both locally and around the world. And right now, in the background, a little bit from a band called Kulalush from Israel. And I found out about this band because I heard our guest today interviewing the band in Israel. Our guest today is somebody who used to run the show and became a legend in Israel broadcasting. None other than Cleveland's own Ben Bresky. Ben, welcome back to Jewish Community Radio, and welcome to, well, you're used to sitting in my seat, now you're the guest chair.
Thank you very much, Fred. It's good to be here back in WJCU. This is where I got my start, and now I'm living in Israel, and I've been visiting Cleveland for the past week or so.
And you're a legend in Israel broadcasting. What can I say, Ben?
Well, I wouldn't consider myself a legend, but I did get to interview a lot of great bands.
And one of them, Kulalush. I go, yeah, you did in one of your shows there, you did a lot of great band interviews, and I loved them all. A lot of fun. And some of them really were fascinating. I had to have the people on my show, and I think I had this band on. They're really cool. And I had on Harari Harp. That was a really cool one. The people who went from Oregon to Israel and made harps. The husband and wife. I don't know if you remember who they are.
I still see them.
Really?
And they're still making harps.
They're a really cool family.
You can order a harp online if you want.
Really? That's
yes.
Really cool. It's a really cool story. The family who self-described hippies decided to move to Oregon and then moved to Israel and making harps. Really cool story. I mean, really fascinating. And you have a lot of bands which have fascinating stories that you did interviews for over the years.
Yes. Yes. Now I'm working at a place called the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com, where we mostly have current events and political shows.
Yeah, we don't do politics on this show, but, hey, I guess you can do that when you're broadcasting in Israel, but we're non-com, so we can't really do that here, unfortunately.
Do you want me to talk about Sderot?
Yeah, talk about Sderot. Okay, now, people don't know, Sderot's been in the news. That's the city where a lot of these kite attacks have been aimed at, and where they are is from Gaza, a bunch of people are setting kites on fire, flying them into Israel, and that's how and then there was some rocket attacks in Israel too. Tell us what's going on in Sderot right now.
Well, first of all, since I came to visit Cleveland, I've been trying to avoid the news. This was supposed to be my vacation, and I wasn't supposed to pay attention to what was going on in Israel.
Yeah, but isn't it hard to when you live there?
Because I went on Facebook, and my friend who lives in Sderot said, they're bombing us. Then other friends of mine in Israel, so it was kind of hard to avoid what's happening there. But let me tell you about visiting my friend in Sderot. First of all, as you said, Sderot is probably the closest major city to Gaza, which used to be part of Israel until 2005. And he picked me up, I think, at Beersheba to drive me.
Which is in the south. It's kind of like about
it's the south.
50 miles from the border? 20 miles? How far is it from the border?
I don't know how close it is, but apparently it's close enough to fly a kite with a flaming firebomb over the border. From Gaza to Sderot.
Oh, Sderot, but Beersheba, this is a little further away.
Oh, Beersheba is further away. So he picks me up, he goes on the highway, we make a right turn, and then the sign says, right, entering Gaza. So he said, oh, oops, wrong turn. So we turned around and turned to the left to Sderot instead.
Oops.
So that's it gives you a sense of what it's like. And I visited there a couple months ago, and there's these things that look like bus stops, but there was no bus numbers on them. And then I realized they're not bus stops. They're bomb shelters, which are strategically placed throughout the city with reinforced concrete, just in case you have the color red alert siren, you can run to the nearest bomb shelter.
Now, these bomb shelters, they're like big concrete boxes, essentially.
Big enough to fit a group of people in.
Like how many people would you say?
I don't know. It looks like a bus stop or a bus shelter.
So they're not that big, but now they're how far apart are these from each other?
I don't know, but they're strategically placed throughout the city so that if you happen to be walking down the street, you can just run to one of them and then wait for for the coast is clear sign.
So they're basically pretty close, though, because this way people can run to them. Because I believe you have like 10, 15 seconds warning. It's all the residents have. Am I correct?
I think so. I need to add, and I don't want to get into politics, that this really didn't happen that much before the disengagement of 2005. I'm not saying there weren't incidents of violence. I'm just saying there wasn't a necessity to build bomb shelters and reinforce the elementary school before the whole Gaza-Hamas takeover thing happened. And now it's been almost 13, 14 years.
That long? Wow.
And it feels like this is the new normal.
Wow. And so you're saying that in southern Israel, the norm is having bombs and flying kites lobbed at you.
Well, the kites are new. And I think it's weirdly enough a positive sign, because if they have to resort to kites, that means maybe they ran out of missiles.
Interesting analysis. I haven't heard that before, but interesting.
I'll tell you briefly about some of my personal experiences with what they call in Hebrew the Tseva Adom, color red.
The red alert.
It goes something like this. Ooh.
Yeah, the loud sirens.
I don't want to do it too much because I don't want to start scaring people on the radio, because I had an incident where we played it on the radio as an example for people listening in America, and I actually thought that it was the real thing, and I ran into the other room to tell my coworkers that we should report to the bomb shelter, and they looked at me like an idiot because they were just playing a recording of it.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. You see, in America, we don't have that, so we don't alert ourselves to that kind of thing. So even if I play it on the radio, people would think, "What's that?" People.
Okay.
So you, in Israel, you got a good point. If someone heard the recording of that, they would immediately pull the car over, and the other guy's not driving. So it would cause a real problem in Israel if you play on the radio, because one guy's driving, not listening to the radio, one guy is listening to the radio, and you could have a lot of accidents that way. That would be a real problem in Israel to hear that on the radio.
Yeah. So when I was working at a news station. This is several years ago when we had the major conflict with Gaza. There's been 3 major conflicts, and I can't remember which one is which anymore. One was Operation Cast Lead, and one was Operation Pillar of Defense. Am I right, Fred? Fred's looking up on his phone. Anyways, I was writing the news briefs, and there was one funny news brief that said in Hebrew something like, "The theater of operation in the south has begun." So I really didn't understand what that meant, so I ignored it. And then my boss calls me up and he says, "Ben, what's the matter with you? Why didn't you report that?" And I said, "Because it didn't make any sense." And he said, "It's war. It means war. We're at war. Stupid. Quick, more news briefs, more." So after that, we got a flurry of news briefs. The rockets are coming. People are reporting to the shelters. I was living in Jerusalem, so I wasn't affected by this until I, in Jerusalem, also heard the color red warning siren. So I ran down to the basement where we have I guess it could be a bomb shelter in the basement or just the basement. And my first thought was, my boss is going to be really angry because I'm not upstairs typing the news briefs, because I personally am now part of the news story. Yeah,
it's kind of funny. It's got to be a little weird. You become the story when you're report. Well, what can I say? But but in Israel right now, let's talk about the rest of Israel, okay?
Yes.
There's a lot of, I guess, feeling in, I guess, people watching what's going on in the news that Israel must inherently be full of rocket attacks, everything, but it's really only in a small part of southern Israel. It's really not everywhere, but it seems like if you watch the media, if you're watching the news in the United States, people could get the impression that these attacks are everywhere and everywhere and everywhere, and oh my God, don't go to Israel, it's too dangerous. Am I right or am I wrong?
I guess yes and no, because like I said, my friend put on Facebook that his community is being bombed, so I can't ignore that, even though someone.
Yeah, but he's in state roads.
Yes, but
it's not like it's in Tel Aviv. It's not like it's in Jerusalem.
But even if you're in Tel Aviv enjoying the summer on the beach, you can't help to notice on your cell phone that your friends down south are enjoying a nice summer day in the bomb shelter.
Well, let's put it also as a perspective of that too. Good point.
But yes, there's plenty of Ozzy Osbourne played in Israel.
Yay!
A couple of weeks before that's just one example, and they keep coming. Stanley Clarke, the jazz musician, came.
He's really cool.
And all these musicians come. There's constantly classical music concerts, but no one cares that a popular musician played in Tel Aviv. That's not going to make CNN because it's day to day. And I'm sure Ozzy Osbourne plays in every country in the world, and we're not going to know about it.
Well, I'll tell you an interesting story. Ozzy Osbourne, I don't know if people know, but he has a little affinity for Judaism. His wife, Sharon, is Jewish. And the interesting thing about them is, I'll tell you a funny story. I was in...
Wait, I want to talk about bombs.
Oh, okay, tell me about bombs. you don't have an Ozzy Osbourne story?
No.
Okay, I want to tell you my Ozzy Osbourne story, but go ahead.
Can we save it for next?
Yeah.
Now I lost my train of thought.
Bombs.
Oh, I don't want to talk. No, we're not.
I was asking what was safe. Was safe in Israel?
Yes, safe in Israel, not bombs.
Not bombs.
Not beaches.
Beaches
in Tel Aviv. I'll tell you what's commonplace. I went to the Western Wall in Jerusalem on Tisha B'Av, and I walked there, and it dawned on me I can walk to the Western Wall on Tisha B'Av or whenever I feel like it. That's not something that that was a dream for some people and for Jewish people in past generations. And now I take it for granted. Now I complain, why is this bus to the Western Wall taking so long? You know, it's kind of a miracle that 3,000 years of Jewish history, there's a bus to the Western Wall, or that the Western Wall is still standing, because a lot of ethnicities in different parts of the world, they don't have a remnant of their sites from a couple of thousand years ago, I guess.
No, it's very fascinating. In fact, the interesting story about the wall, in fact, I don't know if you saw that in the news. You probably wrote a report about it, actually. One of the stones came loose out of the wall.
That's true.
Tell us, what happened with that? What's the follow-up? What's been... I mean, I'll let you tell the story.
Well, I don't know all the details, but I do know that it happened not in the main section where most people pray, but in this nearby section.
Is that when you face the wall, that's like way to the right or way to the left?
It's a little bit to the left.
To the left, okay.
Yeah, I think it's the area called Davidson's Arch.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah, a giant stone came loose and fell to the ground, and that was pretty scary.
Now, how thick was this stone? Was it thick?
Big enough that that it broke the wooden platform.
Whoa.
that it cracked the wood of the sidewalk, the walkway.
Is this going to be repaired? Left alone?
Well,
what are they going to do?
That's the big question. How are they going to repair this thing that's 2,000 years old? And the conclusion is that maybe moisture or vegetation or moss that's grown. I heard they moved the Taj Mahal once, and brick by brick, they were able to... How old is that thing?
Well, it kind of reminds me of a funny TV show episode. I'm not going to go into that one. But
anyways, if they can fix the Taj Mahal, maybe they can fix the Western Wall.
But the brick, how thick was it? Is it like a foot thick?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
You weren't there, okay.
It was big and big enough to damage the boardwalk or walkway. And I want to add... those guys from 2,000 years ago, even though they didn't have smartphones or Wi-Fi, they really knew how to build pretty good. Huh?
Yeah.
That must have been some genius engineering.
No, but if you think about it, you're absolutely right, because the wall is perfectly straight, is brick by brick. It is humongous, and it's a retaining wall. A little bit of history, Jewish history here. When they built the second temple, they flattened off the top of the Temple Mount to make it larger, and the Western Wall is actually a retaining wall for all of the dirt that was moved. So first they built this giant retaining wall. They flattened out the top of it to make more room on the top of the hill. So it's kind of an interesting design. and it was just basically, and how they built that is incredible, especially with the technology of the day. I don't know, Ben, there must have been some really amazing technology that we just don't know about.
I want to add something about the city of Hebron.
Sure, please do.
I went on a special trip.
Oh, wait. Hebron is located where? It's like south of Jerusalem, southeast of Jerusalem?
45 minutes south of Jerusalem, if there's no traffic.
If there's no traffic, yeah.
King Herod the Great built the Western Wall. And am I right?
I believe you're right.
And he built this thing, and he built the Cave of the Patriarchs in Hebron.
Yeah. And the building around the cave.
The building around.
The cave is there. The actual cave didn't build, but he built the building around the cave.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's another thing that I went to, which lies in ruins in Hebron, and I'm going to remember what, and it's called Mamre. And in Genesis, it talks about how Abraham lived in Mamre, and you can see bricks that look exactly like the bricks from the Western Wall with that margin. Square margin around the side.
Yeah, it's like a border around them. Yeah,
around each brick, and it's there, but it's not intact. It's in ruins, and they take groups there.
Now, in Hebron, they also have what's known as Avram Avinu, Abraham, our father's synagogue.
Oh, yes, that's a synagogue from the Middle Ages.
Yeah,
is the 1500s the Middle Ages? It's people that escaped the Spanish Inquisition, moved to Israel, and built this synagogue. So what era is that?
Ben, I don't want to say, because I'm going to get myself in trouble for this one here, so I'm going to...
Email us.
You know what? Email me at Fred@JewishCommunityRadio, and I'll bring it up. How's that sound?
I've been to that synagogue.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
They destroyed it after 1948.
Yeah, it's
and it was recreated.
Yeah.
And that was controversial.
But you still see what was old and what's new. You can still tell what's old and what's original. There's like a small section which is original.
I think so. But the Torah Scrolls are the original Torah Scrolls from the 1500s. And they're still in use today. They were removed from the synagogue during the several wars and taken to Jerusalem. And when they finally rebuilt the synagogue, which I think was in the mid-70s, that's when they actually had access. They brought back those same original Torah scrolls.
Wow, interesting. But I do know that in Hebron, let's talk about the Machpelah, the tomb of the patriarchs. So King Herod built the building, which is really it's a giant stone building.
Yes.
Now the cave entrance is actually outside of the building.
Yeah, well, that's what it looks like, but I found out that that's just a cavern, and that's not the actual cave.
Really?
But that's a cavern that leads to nowhere. But I wrote an article about this, which is why I know about this. And
wait, where do we find the article?
Jerusalem Post.
Okay, JerusalemPost.com, jpost.com.
You could Google Jerusalem Post and Ben Bresky.
Yeah, it's BenBresky. And Ben's articles will appear everywhere.
The Cave of Machpelah, also known as the Cave of the Patriarchs, also known as Ma'arat Machpelah, is one of the few places where you see Jewish, Christian, and Muslim things in the same building.
All praying in the same building?
Well, no.
No?
Because...
the Jews have a synagogue there. The Muslims have some kind of...
a mosque.
A mosque in there.
Mosque area.
Yeah. And then the Christians do not pray there?
Well, I mean, they could if they wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of an open area. There's no assigned seating or so forth.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, though. But you could have...
What I'm saying is that the bricks were built by King Herod. Mm-hmm. Inside the floor, they told me, is the original floor. It just looks like stone. The archways on the ceiling, I was told, are from the Crusader era and are similar to the arches from churches. What's a flying buttress?
A flying buttress, those are the giant pillars that are outside of a church that kind of hold the church up.
Not that. Someone needs to email us again. Anyways, there's there's evidence of when the Christians turned it into Saint Abraham Church.
Interesting.
And then the Muslims came and turned it into the Mosque of Ibrahim. And then you'll see in this building, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim, I don't know what the word is, artifacts, architecture, evidence. The same thing is in the Tomb of David in Jerusalem, where you'll see the Tomb of King David. You'll see these red and white bricks, which are from the Mamluk period. Then there's a thing they call the Room of the Last Supper, and then on the top there's a Muslim minaret. That's a rare occurrence of three major religions in one complex.
Interesting. And where in Jerusalem is that?
It's in the Mount Zion area, which is outside the walls of the old city.
Okay, because I have not been there.
I'll take you.
Let's go.
But not now, because we have a radio
We're a radio show to do, of course. Yeah, we got to finish a show today. Plus, Shabbat's coming. Can't go right now, but...
I'll tell you another interesting tidbit of the Cave of the Patriarchs is that you asked about the actual cave. So when you go inside, there's a hole in the ground. Mm-hmm. It looks like a well, and that's the entrance to the actual underground caves where, of course, tradition holds that the actual graves of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are located. And if you put your face over the hole, you can feel a breeze coming up.
Interesting.
This is because of caverns or backdraft. What's backdraft?
I know it is in fire lingo, but I'm not sure what it is in cave lingo.
Well, can caverns cause a backdraft?
Yeah, I guess it could, because it's just the air coming out. It's the air being pushed through. I guess it could.
You can definitely feel air from this hole. And some Jewish traditions hold it's the entrance to the Garden of Eden.
Ooh.
And you're smelling a whiff of paradise.
Interesting.
No one actually goes down there. But maybe they'll do an excavation.
One day.
That's fraught with political, religious, and...
Yeah, so I was saying one day. I don't see it happening anytime soon.
I'm fascinated by the idea of what's down there. But as for now, we have a hole in the ground. And that's close enough.
Yeah, there's a lot of... political stuff going on when it comes to what you can excavate, what you can't. And recently I saw a story in, thanks to the Israel Foreign Ministry, they have, I get their news, there was a floor that was excavated from a Jewish floor from 2,000 years ago, a mosaic. It's funny, mosaics, of course, they're in Israel. Of course they are. It's mosaic. But there was a mosaic floor that was excavated and really cool, and they rolled it up and took it out, and they unrolled it to where it was going to be left permanently. So it's kind of interesting, but there's always some interesting excavations going on. And also a lot of the excavations they don't want to do right now because they want to wait for future generations, also for better technology. Exactly.
They could ruin it by attempting to dig it up.
Yeah. So... that's also why I people realize when you go to Israel, a lot of times you'll see a building project, and suddenly it takes a few extra years because you have people who are sitting there with makeup brushes just moving away dirt to see what's underneath it.
I think that's a law that before you build a building or an underground parking garage or what have you, you have to investigate. And in fact, things have been found.
Yeah.
In the process of building an apartment complex, they discover something great.
And in fact, sometimes those are left intact, and people can visit the ruins while the apartment building's already up. So they'll put pillars around it. Yes. They'll heavy big footers, and then you go to building, but you also get to the entrance to the dig.
Yes.
And but there's a lot of interesting digs in Israel. A lot of interesting, fascinating digs in Israel that people don't realize. The archaeology, of course. Well, the problem is Israel has a funny problem. They got to have the progress, but they also have to preserve the antiquities.
Yes.
So, in cities like Sderot, for example, in cities like Kedumim, they'll do some digging and they will find coins from the Roman era all over the place. And here's another coin. And Israel is like, okay, another coin. The U.S. is, oh my God, you got a coin so-and-so. Israel is like, yeah, one more coin. No, I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, but but still, it's more uncommon now to find. But there was a time when finding Roman coins was just not a big deal.
Are we almost out of time?
We got a few more minutes to go, Ben.
Okay, I want to just conclude with something.
Sure.
Thank you for having me on the radio.
Oh, glad to. It's an honor having the great one himself, Ben Bresky, on the show.
I just want to say it's a pleasure to come back to Cleveland, and everyone is nice and friendly. Not that they're not in Israel, but yesterday I actually came to John Carroll University, where we're broadcasting right now, and I went to one of those free music concerts that they have every week. And it was nice to see a mix of different people. There were Jewish people wearing kippot and non-Jewish people and people from John Carroll and just all kinds of people sitting on the lawn enjoying music. And if I thought, wow, I'm coming to America where nothing here is Jewish, quite to the contrary. And people of different religions and ethnicities seem to get along. Also, I went to the downtown library, downtown Cleveland, and great architecture. And that, speaking of history, that's a historic building. And they had some Jewish items in their special collections. They had a Purim Megillah.
Interesting.
Lo and behold, I left Jerusalem, came to downtown Cleveland, and found many interesting Jewish things.
By the way, you mentioned Yiddish Cup. Yiddish Cup Klezmer Band, they're playing August. Sorry. August. Wow, August 16th, 7 p.m., which is Thursday of this coming week. Wow.
That's the
6 days away.
John Carroll concert.
Yeah, and they're no longer Yiddish Cup. They're now Funkadelic, the band formerly known as Yiddish Cup, but the website is still yiddishcup.com. So go figure. I don't know. I can't figure that part out.
Will they play Yiddish music, funk music, or deli music? Wait, that's not a kind of music.
Well, I don't think they mean deli as in India.
Oh.
I think they meant deli as in Knish.
Okay.
But they still play a little bit of funky stuff. I mentioned this last time on the show. The head of the band decided that he wanted to do more than just the standard Yiddish songs that they do. So that's why they came up with the new name, the new concept. But there's still Yiddish Cup everywhere you go. It's like the band, or sorry, the artist formerly known as Prince. He did not have a new name. They kind of have a name, but everyone knows them as Yiddish Cup, even though they're now Funkadelic, but they're still yiddishcup.com. What do I know?
Fred, thank you very much for letting me on the radio, and I'm back in the old station.
Hey, Ben, it's always a pleasure having you here in Cleveland on the radio. You're welcome. Anytime you're here, you can next time you should take over the whole show.
Okay.
Now, you've done that before, by the way.
Yes.
So we'll get you the whole show. But, hey, one real quickie. What do you, any kind words for the city of Cleveland? Anything else you want to add to Cleveland?
Cleveland is great.
Cleveland's great. You heard it from Ben Bresky himself. And with that, as we get ready for the beautiful Shabbat coming up, today for Friday, the 10th of August. Can't believe we're into August already. Candle lighting is no later than 8:15 p.m. and Shabbat ends no earlier than 9:17 p.m. Wishing everybody Shabbat Shalom, a wonderful week. I'm Fred, your host. Email me at fred@jewishcommunityradio.org. And with that, Shabbat Shalom.
WJCU University Heights, from the campus of John Carroll University.